And I want to read you a letter that just came to me this past week from a couple who attended one of our Weekend to Remember Marriage conferences. And it's a little long, but by the time we get to the end, you'll understand why I wanted to read this to you. It said, and I would like to thank you for making it possible for us to attend the Weekend to Remember. Wow, does it live up to its name. It not only changed our marriage, but also my husband's heart. Friday night was fun. The speakers were engaging. I was glad we were there, but my husband wasn't into it. He tried to be supportive of me, but it wasn't sometime until Saturday when one of the speakers said, quote, "You know, the devil's not just after your marriage, he's after your children and your grandchildren." Said that statement hit him like a ton of bricks, and that caused him to start paying more attention. We were both taking notes, talking during the sessions. All the presenters were great. But the highlight of the weekend was the date night. We still needed to complete the homework session, so we worked on it while relaxed with a beer. Went to get a second 12-pack. I don't know if he had drunk the first 12-pack or not, but anyway, they don't say here. Then back to the homework assignment. Since it was a non-smoking hotel, Thomas had to go outside to smoke. After going out to smoke, he came back in the room and said, "Come here, I want to play a game together." To which she said, "Is it an interactive game? I'm not sure what to expect." And he said, "Oh yeah, it's interactive all right." As I walked over, Thomas pulled out the rest of the 12-pack of beer out of the fridge and took one out. He sat down on the side of the tub, opened the beer, and began to pour out the beer into the toilet and said, "I pour out my selfishness." I wasn't sure what was happening, and he took out another can of beer. "I pour out my pride." Then a third can of beer. "I pour out my anger." And then I pour out my self-centeredness. And finally, he said, "I pour out my desire for beer." By this time, she writes, we were both in tears. Stood up and cried out to God, "I'm an alcoholic and a sinner, and I need Jesus Christ to forgive me." We cried and prayed together as he gave himself completely to Christ. The next morning, as the conference was coming to a close, the speaker asked if anyone would like to share about how the conference had affected them. Stood up and shared how he had not been the husband he should have been to me over the past 30 years. But that was because he didn't have God in his life, but now God was in his life, and he was fully committed to being the husband that God wanted him to be. The Weekend to Remember was the event that God used to change his heart, and as a result, our marriage and our future. How could we ever forget that?